In today's episode, I never used something like a computer before. Spoiler alert, computers require electricity to function. Thinking outside the box. For not working cash registers. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. I never used something like a computer before. Hello again. Since my first post came good, I decided to tell you another story from my early days in tech support. It is more dialogue, but I think this is important content. Again, POS Systems. I've got a call from EntitledCustomer EC. HS, welcome to company customer support. It's Hentai Senpai 230797 speaking. EC, hello there, this is EntitledCustomer from Entitled Retailer speaking. I have an issue with my POS number 4. It shows a red cross. I knew this issue. Means the POS lost connection. Normally you just restart it, and it works again. HS, could you please turn off the computer and turn it on again? EC, 1 second please, you hear flip switch, yeah it is off. HS, I heard a flip switch. What did you turn off? EC, the small black box next to the monitor. Facepalms, she turned off the receipt printer. HS, you turned off the printer. I need you to turn off the POS computer. EC, walks through the store. Going to the store manager. I need you to turn off the PC. POS software tech support told me to. Very huge facepalm. I shouted stop so loud they could hear me twice. Once in the phone and the other time around the half world. Not the back office PC, the computer at the POS. Back at the POS, EC turned off monitor, electronic cash terminal, the UPS, the printer twice, and the conveyor belt. From fail to fail I was more and more annoyed. EC, there is now one device which says Fujitsu. HS, this is the computer. Please turn it off. EC, but I don't use that computer. Our POS are no computers. I never used a computer in my whole life. I don't touch this. HS, your POS is a computer, same as the EC terminal, your smartphone, the box your customers get the cigarette tickets from, very common in this region. It's a tablet with a printer where you get tickets for cigarettes, razor blades, and anti-baby balloons. You pay at the checkout and then scan these tickets in huge vending machines which throw them out. EC, this is BS. It is a POS and not a computer. And my smartphone is not a computer either. EC hung up. 2 hours later another colleague from the store called, but was connected to my colleague. They did not restart the POS because it was a computer. 2 days later there was a complaint about me from EntitledCustomer for literally speaking BS, and no will to fix the POS. My supervisor was already aware of this call. They showed me the letter. We returned the complaint with another complaint about EntitledCustomer. Dear Entitled Retailers Headquarter, we return the complaint back to you with the information. Mrs. EntitledCustomer refused to follow the customer services commands with the reason never touched a computer in any ways. Blah blah. Kind regards. Hatai Senpai 230797 Supervisor POS Software Tech Support. Not even a week later, EntitledCustomer's account was disabled. We cannot delete accounts for tax/VAT reasons. Guess she was instantly terminated. Spoiler alert, computers require electricity to function. This is the first time I've ever written up something like this on Reddit, so apologies if it is a little rough around the edges. I work in IT at a school district, in a team that consists of just 2 people, including me. As you can imagine, having such a small team covering multiple campuses can make things pretty hectic. Add some rather unpleasant people to the mix, and things can be pretty stressful for us. One particular week, I was given the task of going to every classroom in the district, labs included, and setting up the PCs that have been pulled out due to the floors being cleaned. Unfortunately, we were not the ones who pulled out the desks and PCs, so a lot of the setup and cable managed desktops turned into jumbled messes thrown back onto their desks. From people having their desks put into awful locations multiple feet away from network jacks and power, and tangled cables that will forever haunt my nightmares, I definitely had my work cut out for me. But I managed to get the job done. Cables may not have been expertly managed with cable ties and whatnot, but all the PCs I set back up were double-checked by myself to ensure they turned on and operated properly. Most people were perfectly fine with how I set their PCs back up. Of course though, there is always that one person that you can't please. That one person who hates the IT department with a passion. That particular individual was far from happy with their new setup. They decided to issue a complaint in which they claimed their cables were all over the place, their speakers were no longer functioning, and now their PC no longer powers on. I knew there was no way any of this was possible from my end, as I thoroughly checked each PC I worked on, but I decided to be the nice IT guy and check it out. Luckily, they were not in their classroom, so I was able to investigate with no interruptions. The first thing I noticed was they had completely moved both the computer and the desk to the other side of the room. That checks off the first complaint, as the cable disaster was caused by her moving the PC herself instead of calling us. Next I moved on to seeing if the PC powered on, which it did not. Intrigued, I checked the power cable, which was not even plugged into the power strip. I wish I was making this up. Either that was done on purpose, or they don't realize computers need electricity to function. After being plugged into power, the PC booted up, with everything working, including the speakers. I reported my findings and left the building. Since then, we luckily have not been bothered by this individual. I'll never understand why people act like this, but hey, it keeps us employed, laughing face. Thinking outside the box. So I'm pretty new to IT, but I think this story is too good to pass up. I worked for a big IT company that provided support to a number of businesses. The project I worked on was a really big client, and very professional, be tie ready in case client pops by at least pre-COVID. Anyway, I had a user call in who was very nice about it, but had been bounced around a couple times between level 1 and the application support team, and was unable to do any work because her application was missing a crucial button. I looked at the ticket and thought I may as well take a crack at it. I remote in and the first thing I notice is that normally everything is so tiny in the remote application, but I can see everything clearly on this person's machine. I open up the application and just as expected, no button. I go to open PowerShell and it too is extra big. Thinking that it couldn't possibly be the case, I open up the display settings. The ratio was set much lower than it would be normally. I put it back to the standard and voila, button is back. I upped the text size without altering the display ratio to accommodate the user's sight. We had a good laugh about it. Good lesson for me early on, check the simplest possible solution first. Definitely a case that will stick with me. For not working cash registers. This happened about 6 months ago. I had early shift in first level support. We produced software for cash registers. I wasn't finished with my first coffee, the phone rang. A very upset client called. Client, all my cash registers are dead. And one is beeping. Me, the PCs cannot beep if they are down. It must be something else beeping. Maybe a security system? Client, well, there are saying APC. Only one is on, but shows low battery. Since UPCs were not our responsibility, I informed the customer that he has to open a ticket on his IT department. Client, but I cannot reach out for them. My phone is dead, the back office PC is dead, I only have my cell phone. I asked the customer to check his breakers. After about 10 seconds the client said, well, the lights finally turned on. And the cash registers are also booting up. I ended the call, noted down the ticket. Not knowing, I'm gonna go crazy with this job soon. Turned out the circuit breakers popped another 10 times before the store nearly caught fire. Luckily no failure on our side. Short circuit in a splitter box.